This is the Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. I'm Randy Shaver along with Kevin Gorg. This show is presented by Aquarius Home Services. We're in the Aquarius Home Services studio. Also by 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. All right, Grandpa's back on the couch. Week number 4 is in the books in the NFL. And of course, I think the big storyline here are the injuries that are out there. So we'll touch on them. Just for full transparency, we're doing this on Tuesday afternoon. So some things may change over the course of the week, and Kevin will update you on Friday. But Malik Neighbors out for the year with an ACL. Terrible news for the New York Giants and for anybody that owns Malik Neighbors. Tyreek Hill is probably done. It looks like he's also got an ACL. I think we'll get more evaluation on that today or tomorrow. Lamar Jackson's going to be out for a few weeks. He's got a hamstring issue, so Cooper Rush will take over at quarterback for Baltimore. And I'm sure there's some other things out there. Brock Purdy, there's some other things out there that I'm missing, Kevin, but those are the big ones, and they are big ones here after 4 weeks of the NFL season.
Yeah, for all of us that play season-long fantasy, you tie these injuries into now the start of bye weeks, Randy, where you're already missing key players all over your lineup. And this is where it really pays to work the waiver wire. And now you've got to be creative. And I think some owners out there in fantasy are going to look at some trades, because when you factor in the combination of the key injuries we've seen the first month of the season, along with bye weeks now every week for the foreseeable future, your lineup is really going to get tested.
And if you're in a league that doesn't allow trades, you've got to be, as Kevin said, creative on the waiver wire. And I read so much information about fantasy football, how important the waiver wire is. You and I talked about this week 1, week 2, when we first started doing this way back in early August, that, you know, championships aren't really won on draft day. Championships are won between rounds 5 and 12 in your draft, and actually on the waiver wire. And that's going to be tested a lot over the next few weeks. So I hope you're active on your waiver wire.
And let me give the viewers and listeners a chance to understand the importance of the waiver wire. I've had a tough start to the year. I've had some injuries. Chase Brown isn't the guy I needed him to be. So my roster going into the matchup this weekend in our league at Talk North was in trouble. And Jalen Warren's a guy that ends up being a late scratch in the game in Ireland, the Viking game. And I look at our waiver wire at 7:30 in the morning on Sunday and see Kenneth Gainwell, who's going to be the RB1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I scoop him up. I'm shorthanded at that position anyway. And the guy goes out there and has a monster game and scores 23 points, at least in our league's format. These are the little things you can do. And as you monitor the waiver wire, it isn't just Tuesday into Wednesday like a lot of leagues do traditionally. Watch on the weekend. There are so many injuries right now where there are question marks. And if superstars can't go, their backups are going to get a different role than they've seen. And a lot of times there's some hidden jewels there on the waiver wire, and it can really help you at this time of the season.
And so much of that on the weekend, like for example, in the leagues that I'm in on Sunday morning, it's first come, first serve. Mm-hmm. So get on that list, look over the list before that waiver wire first come, first serve opens, so that you know exactly what you need for some teams, and you can find some real hidden gems on that Sunday morning before things kick off. All right, this is a bye week. As Kevin talked about, there are 4 teams on the bye this week: Green Bay, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. 4 very decent offensive teams, certainly when you talk about Green Bay and what Chicago's been doing lately, and Atlanta as well. So you're going to have to figure out some lineup situations, and you may go up against some teams that also are missing some guys too. So that may be an advantage or disadvantage. We're going to start with the Vikings game. It's being played in London against Cleveland. Kevin's got this game. It's an 8:30 start locally. And of course, the Vikings coming off that tough loss to the Steelers.
Yeah, Vikings defense got carved up by the aforementioned Kenneth Gainwell. So you have to look at Quinshon Judkins, your guy, Randy, as a prime player in whether it's daily fantasy or season long. I think he's going to get a great look. Over under in this game's only 36.5. It's expected to be a defensive struggle, but I think this game's going to be won or lost on the ground. I think Judkins might be the most valuable fantasy player on the Cleveland side. Jerry Jeudy popped up a little bit last week, had a decent game. Cleveland's played a lot from behind this year. He's a guy you can mix in We've talked about their tight ends. I love Njoku, but it's not a good spot for either one of them because they're canceling each other out. And now there are question marks as to whether Joe Flacco gets the start. So I would definitely keep an eye on that into the weekend. If you've got a quarterback, in Joe Flacco that you've depended on to kind of be a fringe starter in fantasy, the backups there don't look like they're ready for prime time. On the Vikings side, fire up Jordan Mason with confidence. I think he's sitting on a decent game against a good defense. Justin Jefferson's a no-brainer, and Jordan Addison had a really strong game. It's a shame he got caught right before the end zone, but he still put up some big fantasy points. Carson Wentz, again, with the bye weeks and the injuries, with Brock Purdy being a question mark, as Randy alluded to, you don't love Carson Wentz in this matchup, but 150, 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns seems realistic if you're in a really desperate situation. But to me, this is not a game where I see a lot of blow-up potential for fantasy.
I just don't see this as in fact, I hesitate to say, but I think I see the under. Cleveland's defense is so damn good. I mean, from top to bottom, and the Vikings they've got more injuries on the defensive side. They're banged up with Brian O'Neill out on the offensive side. I just don't see where the Vikings are going to generate a ton of offense in that game, but we'll have to wait and see. That number is the lowest, by the way, in the NFL this week. San Francisco against the Rams. This is a 7:00 game on Thursday night. The number is 46.5. The Rams are like a 3.5-point favorite. On the 49ers side, you got to monitor the quarterback situation. I know Mac Jones can fill in and he'll be fine, but if you got Brock Purdy and you're relying on him, you need to pay attention this week. That toe injury is still bothering him. There's no question the best piece in this game for the 49ers is McCaffrey. He is looking like the comeback player of the year in the way that he's playing. He touched the ball 23 times against Jacksonville. He had 140 yards, had a touchdown. He's doing everything. 49ers pass offense is mediocre. They miss George Kittle a lot in this offense. Juwan Jennings is hurt again. There's a lot of things not to like in the 49ers lineup, but CMC is one that you've got to have and you've got to play if he's on your roster. And he's really the only one that I like in this game for the Niners. On the Rams side, I absolutely love the Rams in this game. You saw my FanDuel pick this last week where I finished 19th out of 93,000 or whatever it was. And I went with the Rams. I stacked it up. We talked about Nakua last week and just what a stud he is. And he was unbelievable last week. Devontae Adams is eating too. Stafford looks really good. I like the Rams in this game a lot. Nakua, 36 fantasy points last week by himself. 13 catches, 170 yards, a touchdown, 15 targets. He's on pace to break just about every wide receiver record right now in the NFL. So stack them up. I do like Kyron Williams. If they get inside the 5, he'll likely get the football because there's nobody else that's going to steal it from him. He's going to be the guy, but I'm all over the passing game. And I think at a high level, I'm all over the passing game in this one for the Rams. And I like this game. The number's good, 46.5. I don't think the Rams will be behind. That's the only thing that bothers me a little bit. But other than that, fire them up because I think the Rams are in for a big game. All right, you've got Vegas at Indianapolis. It's a noon start. This is a good game.
It is. With the bye weeks and the injuries, if you play fantasy football, specifically daily fantasy, this is probably one of the games you're going to want to migrate to. The over-under is around 48 or 48.5. Indy is just under a touchdown favorite, but there are weapons on both sides that look like they're in a smash spot. And let's finally tip our hat to the rookie Ashton Genty.
Yes.
A lot of people, Randy, that watched this show drafted him early, and it was a slow roll, a slow burn, if you will. They unleashed him last week, and
also on my lineup in that one that
I saw that,
it was awesome.
And I thought that was pretty cool. 3 touchdowns. It looks like they're using him in a really good formation where he can be set like he was in college, a couple yards back and let him go. They tried some different things early in the year. It didn't seem like he had any jump or juice. Well, he does now, and that's going to open up things for everybody because now teams have to stack the box. So Brock Bowers, another guy I think indoors you're going to want to fire up this week for sure. Jacoby Myers is certainly usable, as is Geno Smith. We talked about it last week. Trey Tucker had that blow-up game. I didn't think that was sustainable. I still don't. You want to focus on Genty, Bowers, and Myers. And Geno, I think, is a nice option at quarterback. On the Indy side, Indiana Jones, man, one of the stories in fantasy this year, without a doubt, is Daniel Jones. He has been consistently good. Had a touchdown taken away with one of his receivers celebrating early and fumbling on the 1 yard line. That was unfortunate. But another week where he gets 3 touchdowns, either running or passing combined, it's been the trend all year long. You can start him with confidence and look for him in daily. He'll do you some good. So will Jonathan Taylor. He's been a stud, top 5 fantasy option every single week at any position. And we talked about this way back in the preseason, Randy, in August. Their tight end is a special talent, and Tyler Warren lining up in the backfield is such a weapon when you think about that position and how few of the tight ends in fantasy are scoring touchdowns. To have a guy that can run or catch like Warren is so good. And the receivers, there's a bunch of them there. There's only one you want. That's Michael Pittman Jr. The rest, to me, kind of cancel each other out. But Pittman is the go-to guy for Daniel Jones. I think one of the fantasy games of the week to really focus in on.
I agree with you 100%. I will say this about the Colts, though. Once they start playing some teams that are better than what they've faced over the first 4 weeks, I'm not so sure that they're going to be lighting the scoreboard up as much once they start seeing some better defenses. But this is a week to actually play them for sure. Giants at New Orleans. It's a noon start on Sunday. The over-under is 42.5. The Giants are a slight favorite. Kind of feels like a 20-17 kind of game to me. The bad news, Malik Neighbors lost for the season. Devastating for fantasy, devastating for real life. Good news, Cam Scatterbo led the NFL with 25 rushing attempts last week, 90 total yards. Play him against the Saints. This is a guy that you want to have in your lineup. They've got an average offensive line in front of them. They're not great, but this guy seems to be working well. Jackson Dart makes his first start. I actually picked him up in the Talk North League and played him. He and Michael Penix had about the same number of fantasy points, but Penix is off this week and Jaden Daniels is still hurt. So that's why I went and made that move. So I would have somebody this week. I was taking a chance. It paid off for me. Of course, they upset the Chargers. He looks good. I mean, there's some things that he does with his feet that make him super dangerous. And we talk about this all the time about quarterbacks that line up like that. I'm still waiting to see what will happen receiver-wise with this group, because Wan'Dale Robinson should be that guy, but I don't know if he will be. So it's kind of makes sense that if you want to play Jackson Dart naked in fantasy daily, I can see that, because you can't really trust anything else around him in the receiver category. Certainly, though, I like Cam Scatterbo this week. New Orleans is competitive. You have to give them credit. They're being competitive, but they're still the Saints. And so, and both sides are not overly good at what they do offensively, but I like the Giants side a little bit more than the Saints. Kamara, I just wonder how long they're going to hold on to him. Seems to me he'd be a good person to trade at some point, get something back in return. The season's not going the way, obviously, they were hoping for, and so it could be a quick, could be a good move by them to move a guy like Kamara, get something good in return. Kendre Miller had a really nice game, 11 carries, 65 yards.
Yeah.
I think it was goal line preference for them. He could be taking some things away from Kamara, and maybe Kevin, maybe they're looking at, okay, if we move Kamara, can this guy handle the load for us? And I think that might be part of this too. If you've got Juwan Johnson, heads up, Taysom Hill is coming off the PUP. No. And if that happens, you're not going to be happy. And I know I'm not. And I'm starting to fish around for tight ends this week on the teams that I have Johnson, because
Great point, Randy.
I don't think that he's going to be the guy very much longer at that position. Olave continues to be a target monster. You certainly can play him. Rattler actually was decent against Buffalo.
He's was
not a terrible quarterback, but there's just not enough there on the side. The number's 42.5. I think that's too high. I really like the Giants in this one with Jackson Dart and Scatterbo. Those are the two guys that I like a lot. All right, Kevin's got Dallas at the Jets. I think the over-under in penalties for the Jets is 13. And this is a noon game on Sunday. My goodness.
Both those Monday night games we watched last night were just flag fest. They were hard to watch. And this comes after the Sunday night game that was an absolute classic, 40-40 between Dallas and Green Bay. The fact that Dallas put up 40 points on Green Bay's defense tells me you better take them very serious in any spot. And I get that the Jets defense is good and they're on the road, but you can fire up Dak Prescott right now with confidence. George Pickens, listen, we knew this kid was talented. Now that CD Lamb is banged up, center stage is his. And if last week is any indication, he's going to make a lot of hay with the sun shining, no doubt about it. Jake Ferguson, one of those tight ends that I think is top 10 for sure, maybe top 5 in fantasy because of the amount of targets he gets. He had 7 catches. He had a touchdown last week. And Javonte Williams, again, consistent fantasy production. I don't think anybody saw it being at this level. He's been outstanding for Dallas, so you can fire him up. Turpin and Tolbert, to me, are players I'm still watching while CD Lamb is on the mend and not taking the bait just yet, but there's certainly guys on my radar. For the Jets, they continue to struggle offensively outside of Justin Fields, who's a freak, and he did it again last night.
He just didn't look all that. I don't know. There's something. He's so slow at getting things figured out. I got to tell you one quick thing, okay? So I'm playing Prize Picks last night, and I can win if Garrett Wilson makes 6 catches. He has 5 until that one at the end of the game.
That's why we watch.
I was like, if I was on the other side of that, I would have been dying, but I was on the right side of that last night. That was crazy.
Well, you probably loved it in the middle of the third quarter where they showed him on the broadcast, look over at the bench and basically scream to the coaching staff, throw me the football. Yeah. And he really is their only consistent weapon. So I mean, he's terrific. Fields looks off. I'm with you. He just looks off outside of being able to run the football. Braylon Allen got hurt last night, one of the backs that's been splitting the carries. So now if you keep an eye on that, and I'll update you on Friday for sure. But if he's out, that elevates what Breece Hall can do in both daily and season-long fantasy because they'll lean a lot on Breece if that's the case. The over-under is 46.5. So they're expecting points in the betting markets. And I think this is a sneaky good fantasy game on Sunday.
I agree. All right. I've got Denver, Philadelphia. It's a noon game. This might be the best game football wise this week and maybe fantasy, but I don't quite think so. Philly's a 5.5 point favorite. The over-under is 44.5. On the Broncos side, Bo Nix certainly playable. I think even naked, you can play him because he's got potential both with the legs and passing. The running game still is split down the middle. I mean, Dobbins and Harvey basically had the same number of carries on Monday night. The difference is that Harvey's a little bit more active in the passing game than Dobbins is. And of course, you got to like Cortland Sutton. He's their guy. But Denver may be playing from behind, likely will be playing from behind in this game. So that inspires me a little bit to look at Nix, stacking Nix and Sutton together. But I still think there's 2 good defenses on the field. The numbers 44 feels a little high, but we've seen this before where sometimes games like this turn into shootouts too. So but I really like Bo Nix probably naked in daily fantasy if I'm going to play anyone from Denver. On the Eagles side, they're facing a very good Broncos defense, but Jalen Hurts is always in play. Not necessarily because of his arm, but because of the other things that he does. Again, he's similar to Nix in the sense that he can score on the ground. You got to play Dallas Goedert. I mean, good Lord. I mean, wow. He had 4 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns. He's just been a touchdown machine so far this year. And Jalen is looking for him in those certain situations inside the red zone. So, if you've got Goddard or you've got him on your bench, think about playing him because there's a good chance that that Jalen Hurts is going to find him. Barkley is Barkley. If he's on your roster, you have to play him. Don't outsmart yourself. Don't think, oh, it's a Denver defense, I'm not going to start him. That's ridiculous. You still got to play the guy. I don't think he's going to have a monster game against them, but he could get inside the 5-yard line a couple of times, and maybe they'll give him the football and not do the tush push, but who knows? On the receiver end for Philly, it's just a mess. There's just nothing there that interests me at all. So to be quite honest, in looking at this game, it's very middling for me for fantasy. It's a muddled mess. Nobody really stands out. And so because of that, I'm going to kind of probably stay away from that game in a lot of different ways. Miami at Carolina, it's a noon start. And boy, Carolina looks so bad.
Their defense, my goodness.
Yes. Everything.
Well, this is why I love fantasy football, Randy, because this is a game. If you didn't play fantasy and they were playing in your backyard, you might not open the window and take a peek out. But because we play fantasy, this game becomes very relevant. Yep. And yeah, the injury to Tyreek Hill is a really sad deal. You certainly elevate Jalen Waddle. All of a sudden, here comes Darren Waller. Yeah. Waller, again, is a baller with 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. Not a ton of production outside of that, but in the red zone, he is going to be a guy that they're going to look to. The constant remains Devon Achane. Achane is a cheat code in fantasy. He produces every week. He gets you 6 to 8 catches every week. He scores touchdowns. And because of Achane, and because I think Waddle and that grouping they have, even without Tyreek, Tua is going to be startable, especially with what you've got in terms of the bye week. So Tua, you can fire him up. You're a lot more brave than I am if you can fire up Bryce Young on the other side. He has not been good. Watching that kid, he made some progress last year late in the season.
It looks seems like he's taking a step backwards.
It really does, which is a shame because he's got weapons. And there are still 2 playable weapons in this offense consistently. Chuba Hubbard is still one of those James Conner types that we've talked about that you plug your nose and expect it's going to be 70 to 100 yards. If you're lucky, a touchdown, but enough catches to make him relevant. You're likely going to get double-digit points. He's never going to be the guy like Genti that scores 3 times. That's not ever going to happen, but he's solid enough. And Tet McMillan, the rookie receiver, is an absolute stud. It's a shame his quarterback play has held him back early on. Not a lot of touchdowns early, but I think maybe as the season goes on, that could change. So over-under's 45, another one of those games where I think there's some sneaky good fantasy potential there.
All right. Houston at Baltimore. It's the final noon game on Sunday. The over-under is 43.5. Baltimore's a slight favorite right now at 3.5, but the news about Lamar Jackson could change that maybe a little bit. Lamar is going to be out for a few weeks. On the Texans side, it's Woody Marks. Man, he's the guy. If you stashed him away, if you drafted him and held on to him, you saw him getting 4 or 5 carries a game, and you said, I'll keep him on my roster just in case. Congratulations. Because this guy is going to be their guy this year. He is one of 4 running backs on Sunday that had over 50 yards receiving and 50 yards rushing. The other 3 were Bijan, Bucky Irving, and Josh Jacobs. And so Woody Marks is making some things happen for the Texans. And he's got a nice matchup against Baltimore because their defense is absolutely decimated. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams really load up and get after the Ravens just because they have so many people hurt right now. I'm not sure if I can trust the Texans passing game. I'm not a big fan of CJ Stroud. They just don't. I mean, Nico Collins obviously is a very good player, but he just doesn't seem to be getting the looks and the targets and the feel that we saw him get last year. So the only one that I really like on the Texans side this week, besides their defense, and I do like their defense this week, as I liked them last week, is Woody Marks in the running game. On the Ravens side, obviously, Lamar is out. Cooper Rush is going to play quarterback. He's serviceable. They've got to get Derrick Henry going. And this was a point made in the game the other night, that in the Kansas City game, the 3:00 game on Sunday, Derrick Henry didn't touch the ball hardly at all. It's just, I don't understand what they're trying to do. But again, they've got so much so many injuries at this point on both sides of the football that maybe it's going to be hard for them to do much of anything. However, I do like Henry in this game. If I have him, and I do in the Talk North League, you got to start him because he's certainly capable of having a big Derrick Henry kind of game. I think other than that, there's just really nothing there. I can't trust Cooper Rush. Flowers has kind of disappeared. Isaiah Likely is going to play split time with Mark Andrews. There's just really nothing on the Baltimore side that interests me, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Texans go into Baltimore and win that football game. So having said that, the two guys are the two running backs for me, Woody Marks and Derrick Henry.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Let's look at your fall water checklist. If you check yes to orange rust stains, smelly water, and that funny taste, then you should get a new Kinetical water treatment system from Aquarius Home Services. Then check yes to worry-free drinking water, spotless dishes, and softer laundry. Get a free water analysis plus 36-month zero financing based on credit approval. Visit AquariusHomeservices.com today. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that, but what I am sure about, 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Tennessee is at Arizona. Kevin's got this game. It's a 3:05 start.
Arizona favored by just under 10 points. The over-under is 41.5. And if you can find a more disappointing offensive team than the Tennessee Titans, please stand up and show me who they are, because
I think Carolina could stand up.
Well, maybe, but this Tennessee team, the train's off the tracks. They got shut out last week. Their quarterback, Cam Ward, is an absolute mess. And listen, I have a couple shares of them. I've dropped them since. I took a couple of tickets hoping this kid would figure it out. I saw some talent there at the college level. It just is not working between the offensive line and the lack of consistent production in the running game. I can't recommend any Titans. I mean, Tony Pollard, fine. Again, another running back that's going to get at least the reps, but Calvin Ridley, who I have a bunch of shares of, is unusable right now. The quarterback play, even Oya Manor, the young kid that we love, he's a talented kid, but they're not having any chance to produce. So I'm avoiding Titans at all cost. On the Arizona side, they're going to be playing from in front. So you know Kyler Murray is a decent start under normal circumstances, Randy. But if they're up 21-0 at the half, they're not going to be out there throwing the ball and having him run around in the second half. So I don't love them. You can use them for sure. Trey Benson, the running back you probably want, especially considering the likely way this game plays out. Benson's going to get a ton of work on the ground. Trey McBride, have to start him. Don't love the situation, but he's startable. And Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, still showing that this kid's got real potential to be a stud in fantasy. It's been a little inconsistent, but you're going to fire up both McBride and Harrison and hope that Tennessee at least can score some points to keep the offense going for Arizona in a game they're likely going to win by double digits.
Yeah, I like the Cardinals' defense in this game. If you're
great call.
Having to play defenses this week, I think Arizona's defense is the one that you want to pick. All right, I've got Tampa Bay, Seattle. It's a 3:05 start, 44.5. Seattle's a slight favorite at 2.5. This game could be pretty good, I think. There's some potential on both sides. Certainly, Egbuka is a stud. Man, I think I missed the boat early on this guy. Didn't draft him enough in any of the leagues because I thought the two guys in front of him would take all the catches, and it's turned out that both those guys, Evans is hurt, obviously, but Godwin played this week, but it's going to take a while for him to get back into the groove. And Baker Mayfield really likes this kid. 4 catches, 100 yards, 20 fantasy points. He's wide receiver 7 right now in the NFL. So he's quite the weapon. And so is Bucky Irving. Not just running the football. In fact, I think he's a more dangerous player right now, catching the ball out of the backfield. But those two guys, I think, are the guys. And you can play Baker. You can certainly stack against Seattle. Seattle's defense is decent for sure. And the game is in Seattle. It's loud. There's a lot of things that go with playing against Seattle out west. Weather could be a factor. You never know. But I just think that on the Tampa side, Egbuka and Irving are the two guys that you want. And, both teams are 3-1. So this game means a lot to both teams too. So there's a lot on the line. On the Seahawks side, they won last Thursday. They got extra rest. Probably will help them a lot. Their running game is okay. Charbonneau came back. And Kenneth Walker's the guy, but they split the backfield carries, maybe 60-40, 70-30. I could see Walker having a decent game. Tampa's defense is not terrible. They're good up front. How about Sam Darnold? He's been pretty quietly, been very steady and very good. Mm-hmm. And I could see taking a chance on Sam in daily because I think a lot of people will not do that. So the ownership will be low, and put him with JSN and see what happens against the Tampa defense. The numbers enough that you can get production offensively from both sides of the football. There's nothing crazy to love other than a bouquet for me and Irving to an extent. But the game should be a good football game to watch, I think, in a lot of different ways. Detroit at Cincinnati. Here you go, man. 3:25 start.
Yeah, before the season, if I would have told you that Detroit was going to be nearly a 10-point favorite on the road in Cincy, you would have thought I was insane. But here we are. Jake Browning and Cincinnati have been a major, major disappointment. The over-under is 50. So I bring that up because it's one of the highest numbers of the week, and the betting market believes that both teams are going to score points. I watched that Monday night game in Denver. I don't know what they're seeing, but Detroit side, you're going to fire them all up. They're going to win this game. It's going to be a matter of what the game flow looks like, but Goff looks awesome. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, their receiver, their speed merchant, looks great. Laporta, absolutely solid. Not spectacular, but solid for sure. And I'm bullish on Gibbs over Montgomery. Both are startable, Randy, but Gibbs to me, especially in daily, that's the guy that's got the way bigger ceiling, catches more footballs, and they're using him at about a 65-35 rate right now. Keep that in mind because it literally last year was a 50-50 split, and that seems to be slowly shifting towards the speedier running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. On the Cincy side, I feel bad for anybody like myself that invested in multiple leagues in Bengals. And I'm all over Chase Brown, and I still love this kid. I love this kid. There is nothing he or Jamar Chase or T. Higgins can do. Like, the offense is broken. The offensive line is awful. Terrible. And Joe Burrow maybe could cover up some of those warts. This Browning kid can't do it. And against real defenses, they're getting lit up. So Detroit's going to bring pressure. You know that's coming. At least Cincinnati's at home. In a pinch, can you use any of those three guys? Sure. Avoid Jake Browning for now. It's a sad state of affairs. I don't know how long he keeps the job, since he might be a team that goes out and tries to get a guy like a Jameis Winston, somebody out there that's a veteran that can elevate their offense, because their season's slipping away. They're 2-2. They're staring 2-3 down this week. And even though the over-under is 50, I think at least 30 to 35 of those points will be scored by the visitors in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the Vegas betting market is thinking 30-20 as the score, with the Lions scoring 30. And if the Bengals can score 20,
be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Brown and Jamar Chase hopefully are part of that 20 if you've got them. The problem is, Kevin, when I watched the Bengals and I watched the game the other night, they can't run the ball. I mean, they just simply cannot run the football. And so teams are just teeing up on them, and Browning just can't.
He's off.
With that offensive line, even with those weapons, it's just not a pretty sight. So I'm like you. I'm all over Detroit. Washington Chargers, 325 start. This number is almost at 50. It might be at 50 by the time they kick off on Sunday. It's 49.5. The Chargers are a slight favorite. I think on the Commanders side, the big thing is Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Will those guys play? And that's something to keep an eye on this week. I haven't seen anything, maybe you have, that says that they're not, but both missed last week, and Jaden has missed the last couple of weeks. If they both play, then there are some things on the Washington side that I do like. Obviously, it would be Jaden Daniels for sure. I don't like the running game. There's nothing there for me to even think about. Deebo Samuel and quietly sneaky Ertz this week.
Yes.
Might be of interest to me. The number's high enough, and the Chargers are only a 2-point favorite. So Vegas is saying, hey, this thing's got a chance to be pretty high scoring. If that happens, then, and if it's Mariota, then, Deebo and Ertz likely would be those guys. I just don't see the Commanders running the ball with 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns. I just don't see that in this game. On the Chargers side, oh my gosh, light them up, man. I love Omarion Hampton. Led all the running backs this last week in snap percentage at 89%, 17 touches, 165 yards, 27.5 fantasy points. He's had back-to-back 25-point fantasy weeks. Even with Joe Alt injured, and there's still some concern about what his status is going to be, he's still really good. He's the one guy of running backs this week that I really, really like. I love your Gibbs guy too in the matchup, but Hampton is really taking off now as that guy. It's time to panic if you've got McConkey. It's time.
It is
time. He's the third receiver. Quentin Johnston's number 1, Keenan Allen's number 2, and this kid is forgotten. Now, that could change. Things could happen. He could have a game, but it doesn't look like that Herbert is even looking for him in this offense. And Quentin Johnston has definitely ascended to that number 1 position. So if you're stacking a quarterback and receivers this week, I think Herbert, Johnston, and Allen would be some ones that you should think about, because that number is big. And those guys are going to come off a loss to the Giants, and they're at home. And I think you're going to see them fired up. Nobody's throwing the ball more than the Chargers are right now in the NFL. So there's a lot to like on the Chargers side. So as far as I'm concerned, you can light them all up and see what happens. New England's at Buffalo. It's the Sunday night game, 7:20 start. Kevin's got it.
Yeah, one of the better games on paper, over under 49.5. So another big number here where the experts think this is going to be a point fest. Buffalo, 7.5-point favorite. I'll start with Drake May, who's been an unbelievable surprise in fantasy. Very comparable numbers to Danny Dimes, whereas 3 touchdowns or more combined every week. He's good on the ground. He's throwing the ball with confidence. He's got a plethora of weapons, sneaky good, top 10, maybe top 5 borderline quarterback in fantasy. Diggs has evolved now. He was kind of slow to go, Randy, but our old friend Stephon Diggs from the Minneapolis Miracle, 6 catches, over 100 yards, looking a lot more like the receiver we saw back in his heyday with Minnesota. So I think of the wide receivers, he's the one you want to focus in on in fantasy. Hunter Henry has been a stud at the tight end position. He's a guy I would look at, especially with the bye weeks coming up, as a player you can use with confidence. Running back's a little bit muddy there in the backfield. Travion Henderson.
I like them.
Travion's still the guy, but Ramondre's still a thorn in his side. The snap share last week was, well, and that's the problem. He is a fumbler. So I think long-term, big picture, if you're in season long, you want Travion and you want to keep him on that roster. I think he's going to be the guy in the second half of the season. For Buffalo, it really isn't confusing until you get to the wide receivers. Josh Allen, stud, number 1 quarterback, no brainer.
Tremendous.
James Cook, stud, scores every week, no brainer. Dalton Kincaid, stud, tight end, top 5 option at that position, no question about it. Especially right now with Kittle on the mend in San Francisco. The receivers, Coleman, Palmer, I'm waiting on Khalil Shakir. If you have to play one, if you want to stack Kincaid, Josh, and a wide receiver, Khalil Shakir, to me, is still the guy of the targets. I think a really intriguing football game. I think New England's going to give Buffalo all they want, and I think there'll be plenty of fantasy points to go around.
All right. Love it. Last game is the Monday night, Kansas City at Jacksonville. The over-under's 45.5. KC's a slight favorite at 2.5. On the Chiefs side, Xavier Worthy makes everything change in the outlook of the Kansas City Chiefs. And when they get Rice back, it's going to be even better. So we've been talking a lot about how the Chiefs just look discombobulated and slow and not. They looked great on Sunday in that football game. Obviously, Mahomes throws 4 touchdown passes. They just lit him up. And Baltimore banged up, obviously. But there's no question that Xavier Worthy, if James Worthy was playing wide receiver, he'd also be good in this Chiefs offense. But Xavier Worthy is really good. And, I would think about stacking Mahomes, Worthy, and even Kelsey this week against the Jags. And that's probably a stack that not a lot of people will think about, but I think there's some potential there. Pacheco's losing volume every week. If you've got him, if you're relying on him, I think you're in trouble. Kareem Hunt is getting more and more looks. I've got Kareem Hunt all over my teams as a backup, just sitting there. He hasn't played one down in any of my teams, but he's sitting there for these bye weeks that are coming, and I will play him with some confidence because he's getting about 9 to 12 touches a game, and that might be enough for him to get in the end zone at least once, and that's really all I'm thinking about. So on this on the Kansas City side, I like a lot of the options there. On the Jags side, Trevor Lawrence to me is just killing Brian Thomas, just killing him. It's just there's just not a lot of passing offense to even consider at this point. Now, having said that, they're winning football games. And so, you have to kind of look at it maybe in the context of what the team is trying to do. I get it. For fantasy purposes, there's just nothing there on the passing side. However, I love ETN. I think he's got a chance to do some good things this week. He's clearly the number 1 guy. Tootin is not part of the equation at this point. So he's the main back. And I think he's probably the guy to think about. I love the Chiefs on this side. I actually like the Kansas City defense in this game too. Even though the game is in Jacksonville, I like them as a sneaky pick on the defensive side. So those are the games this week. And again, reminder, there are bye weeks this week and bye weeks throughout as we keep talking over the next few weeks. Let's move on to our fantasy lineups for this week. This is my week 5 fantasy lineup. I love Detroit. I love the combination of Jared Goff and Amon St. Brown. That's my stack. I love Genty this week. I love James Cook this week. How can you not like what you've seen over the last few weeks? My flex guy is Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm all over Detroit this week. I like what the Lions can do. Quentin Johnston is a guy that I'm going to start looking at playing more. So he's one of my receivers, and Tyler Warren is my tight end. So if I had these guys, this is my lineup: Goff, Genty, Cook, Johnston, Amon St. Brown, Tyler Warren, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
My PPR lineup will start with Matt Stafford, who's, again, when you've got two of the top 10 fantasy receivers, how are you not going to produce top 10 fantasy numbers at the quarterback position? I love stacking, and I'll use Devontae Adams. I mean, Puka Nacua is a no-brainer. More affordable every week would be a guy like Adams, who falls through the cracks a lot of times because Puka's so damn good. I'll use Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. He's getting too many catches. Right now, if you took away the rushing production he's used, he'd be top 5 in fantasy receiver production only. He's getting that many targets. He's scoring in the passing game. You've got to fire up McCaffrey. I still love Jordan Mason. I think the Vikings right now, with what they've got to work with, they're going to throw him the football, and they're going to use him in the red zone. I just think he is going to be a fixture in this offense week in and week out. I'm with you on Tyler Warren. I think he's an incredible option at tight end every single week in fantasy. I told you about Devontae Adams. Nico Collins, to me, is rising as we speak. I think the Texans are going to go on a little run here like you. I think they can pull off an upset this week, and my flex player is the touchdown machine that is James Cook. You plug and play this kid every week. He will find the paint. He will score you at least one. And a lot of weeks with the way Buffalo plays, Randy, he's good for multiple tutties. So that's my best PPR lineup.
All right, let's go to our FanDuel daily fantasy lineups. My lineup actually last week, not the lineup that scored big for me, but the lineup that I had on this show actually made some money as well. So feeling pretty good about that. I do love the Rams this week. There's no question. However, they're expensive. And so and I think people are going to jump all over them, Kevin. So I'm trying to think about, where can I go where I can still get I can get value and I can still score a lot of points, but maybe the ownership's not as high. So this is my daily lineup this week. I'm going to go with Miami. I'm going to stack Tua, and I'm going to stack Waddle in that game at Carolina. And I'm going to play Achane as my flex. So I'm going to go all in on the Dolphins this week.
Nice.
I don't think a lot of people will. And in Carolina can play some tough defense at times, but man, this feels like a game where if Miami puts it all together, they could score a ton of points. My running backs this week are Gibbs with Detroit. He's 9,000. Omarion Hampton's at 75. I love that price on Hampton at 75. I'm going Pickens at 71. I think Dak is having an MVP kind of year right now, and Pickens is going to be the guy that's going to benefit from that. I'm going to go Debo, and he's not my first choice, but money-wise, this is kind of where I fell to. And he was actually the last guy I put into my lineup. So I'm not feeling totally great about that. But I look at the Charger-Washington game with the over-under and feel like I've got to get some pieces of that game. So if I have Hampton, I want to try to get something on the other side. And so Debo is my call. I've got Tyler Warren as my tight end. He's 6,100 this week. Again, I want to get pieces of that Vegas-Indianapolis game. I might not have enough pieces in that game, but at least I got one in Warren. And my defense this week is Dallas. I'm going with the Cowboys this week. They're playing the Jets, who are just pathetic right now. And I think Dallas, coming off the tie and scoring the points, even though their defense has struggled, I still think that they feel like they've got a chance to do some things here down the road. So that's my lineup for FanDuel. Tua, 6,800, Gibbs, Hampton, Pickens, Debo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Tyler Warren, Devin Achane, and the Dallas Cowboys defense. I am banking on Miami this week.
I like your lineup. I've got a couple of carryovers, which makes me smile, but I'll start with Kyler Murray. I was trying to piece this thing together and find a stack. They're going to score points. I hope to God that Tennessee can score enough to keep him relevant in the second half. I'm not worried about the first half, nor should anybody ever worry about that in any matchup, but I'm going to stack Kyler Murray at a very affordable 7,500. Hope that he gets one on the ground and two in the air. That's my goal with that quarterback. And I've got Trey McBride, in my opinion, right now, the best tight end in fantasy football. So I'm banking on him doing some damage and scoring a touchdown in this matchup. It allows me to get creative at the running back position, and I go one big dog and one cheap dog. The big dog is Jahmyr Gibbs, just like you, $9,000 at Cincy, a no-brainer. I've got him on multiple touchdowns this week. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for daily fantasy players. Your guy, Woody Marks, that we talked about here a little earlier,
good one.
He's only 5,400, and I think Houston could win this game on the ground, and I think Woody Marks could have a very similar game.
That's a good buy.
5,400. I had to do it. I'm going to use the Seattle defense, which is kind of a middling price at home against the Tampa team that's banged up right now. And because they're banged up and they've got some question marks on the offensive side of the football, I think Seattle might be able to get some things done in terms of pressure with the pass. I'm using Michael Pittman Jr. at 5,900 against a Vegas secondary that's been very porous in fantasy football. 5,900, a very good price. I'm using Tet McMillan, Carolina, likely going to be chasing against a very, very bad Miami secondary. Their secondary stinks. Justin Fields couldn't take advantage of that. I think that Tet McMillan could be the guy that
Bryce Young can take advantage of that.
Well, it can't be too complicated in this offense. I mean, you get Tet McMillan the ball any way you can. If you can get him 8 to 12 targets, I think he could have a very productive game at only $6,200 and a similar price on another bad team and a wide receiver playing at a bad team in Chris Olave against the Giants, who have really a terrible defense on the back end. 42 targets through the 4 games for Olave. He is 6,100, and that allows me to have the cheat code for my flex player, the same guy that you're using, Devon Achane at 8,100 against Carolina, who can't stop anybody.
All right. So review that one more time. Give us quarterback through your defense.
Kyler Murray with Trey McBride is my quarterback tight end stack. Running backs are Woody Marks and Jahmyr Gibbs. Receivers are Michael Pittman, Tet McMillan, and Chris Olave. My defense is Seattle, and Devon Achane is my flex.
All right. I'd be remiss if I didn't end this with the Kaprizov news today.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Spend about 30 seconds and tell us what a big deal this is today.
Well, I'll put it in terms of what lies ahead for the Wild. This was a black cloud hanging over the team during training camp. Everybody was kind of like, I don't want to say somber, Randy, but there was a real worried feeling in the building. And now today, everybody had smiles on their faces. Everybody's excited. And Bill Guerin, their GM, made the point in his press conference, to get free agents in the future, you have to be able to keep your superstar players. Yes, it's a lot of money. Yes, it's a long time. But Kirill Kaprizov's a top 10 player in this league, and Stanley Cups have a way of finding their way to superstar players. You can't afford, if you're the Minnesota Wild, to let this guy get away. So if you're a fan of this hockey team, it's a huge day for Minnesota.
You must be exhausted, and you're at the exact place you want to be. All you got to do is lean back, and you're on the couch, Grandpa, ready for a nap.
Might be time for a quick nap before the big game tonight. And no, it's, you know what, between the Wild and signing Kaprizov and a fresh week in fantasy, you and I both play guillotine, waiting to put the bids in later tonight and see what we get on Christmas morning tomorrow. We're all good right now in my sporting world.
I appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Kevin, very much. Appreciate it. This is Fantasy Huddle, and our thanks to our sponsors, of course, Aquarius Home Services, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. All right. Good luck this week in your daily and your season-long fantasy, and we'll be back next week.